Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. I'm your host, the Fellow KGB. You can follow me on Twitter at the Fellow KGB. And tonight, Tuesday, January 19th, it's a little after 6 p.m. Central Time. We're joined by John Heffernon tonight. We're talking fantasy hoops. I don't know where this conversation is going to go tonight, but I'm excited to have you, man. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Doing well, Kyle. Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. And tonight's thumbnail, I don't know if you're able to see it, but I had a picture of Kevin Durant and James Harden, Brooklyn Nets game. We are Bucks fans. We got the Packer logo up here, but I just want to get your thoughts right out of the gate here on. I'm sure you watched the good majority of last night's game, but what do we got going on with the Bucks and Nets from last night?
The only hope the NBA has is for Kyrie Irving to return and make them worse, because Harden and Durant in their current state are, with the surrounding pieces they had available to them, are more than enough to just rain terror on the NBA playoffs, the finals, and whoever they meet along the way. It's going to be tough to slow those guys down.
Yeah, you mentioned Kyrie maybe coming back and maybe kind of just, I don't know, less shots attempts for Harden, less shot attempts for Durant. Maybe that just kind of evens things out. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't know when Kyrie's coming back. It sounds like he's trying to push to come back this week. But you got Durant hitting 30 points. You got Harden hitting 34. And then they had all of their starters were in double digits as well, too. They all shot the ball pretty well, specifically Joe Harris, 5 of 7 from threes here. I'm going to hop into his screen share real quick. I'm just looking at the box score here. But, man, Joe Harris, 5 of 7. He hit that one at the end there. And then Jeff Green, 4 of 5. So they shot the ball extremely well, almost 50% from 3 last night. The Bucks not so much, under 30%. That's the difference in this game. I thought the Bucks played really well. They just didn't get, 3 or 4 more shots to fall, and then they're cooking here. So this is going to be, to me, these are the heavyweights. We'll see if Miami can make anything happen in the East as well. But Kyrie's coming back soon. I don't know when. I'm curious when the Bucks would play them again. I hope it's sometime soon, maybe in February. Let me just pull up their schedule real quick here. But any other final thoughts there on the Bucks game before we moved into some of the questions, or we'll kind of just bounce around?
It's not fun to try to predict the future, but if I could get 6 to 7 games in a row in the playoffs, like a conference finals or even a conference semifinals, that would be a Bucks Nets. I'm talking about, that would be a lot of fun. I mean, these two teams they're built to face each other. They're with especially considering the recent acquisitions, Drew Holiday, James Harden. I mean, these rosters are kind of built to go, their big three versus our big three. And theirs are significantly more talented, especially offensively. But I just, as a Bucks fan, you want to see that series. You want us to, if we're going to win something, you want us to go through the best competition possible to get there. And so I hope these teams meet in the playoffs.
I definitely can see them meeting at some point in the playoffs. Sure, the Eastern Conference final would be easy to predict, but maybe they get matched up earlier than that. Who knows? But the thing that I noticed with Bucks last night, I think we were talking about it in our group chat, but it was the backup, 1 and 2 guards, DJ Augustin and Bryn Forbes, combined 2 of 14 shooting, 0 of 4 from 3. Even Cash Money Middleton was 0 for 5 from 3. So if you take those 3 players, 0 of 9 from 3, I don't think that might not happen again this season, where one of those guys doesn't hit a 3. So I don't know. I took this as an encouraging loss. I think the Bucks can play better. We can shoot the greatest as well. Again, under 44% shooting. The Nets shot 55 over a 7-game series. That might get evened out and kind of break into a little bit more, balance between the games. So super exciting game last night. We don't really have a lot of games going on tonight, but before we get into anything, we got a couple trade questions here in the chat room. We got Oscar hanging out tonight. He's wondering if you should trade Kevin Durant for Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray. That one's kind of tough because you're playing. KD's easily the best player between the group here, but Mitchell, Jamal Murray, I think Murray's got an injury thing going on. I can double check that, but any quick thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, if you can neither one of those guys is obviously equal to Durant. But if you can kind of give up Durant and you're not missing that much, you're able to replace him with some solid wings, and you really have some need at the guard position, I could see this trade making sense for you. Overall, I would probably pull the trigger unless you're weak at small forward, weak at those forward positions, or you're like stacked at those guard positions. But otherwise, this is a pretty spicy 2-for-1. Durant, to your point, Kyle, Durant is easily the best player in this trade. But, Durant averages somewhere between 40 and 50 fantasy points a game, whereas Murray and Mitchell are averaging, 60 plus fantasy points a game combined. Again, now you're talking about the two players combined, but I would probably do this. But your team setup and your roster, your league roster settings are very important for making a decision like this. So I can't totally sign off on it, but I'd give you my blessing. I guess I'll put it that way.
So if I have KD, I'm probably. You're buying low on Mitchell and Jamal Murray, who I kind of highlighted last week in a show that I was interested in those guys for buy low opportunities. And I just kind of pulled up Jamal Murray's numbers. He had his best 2 games of the year, basically the last 2 games. And I'm just kind of looking here at the fantasy points filtered by season average here. And I don't even see either of these guys in the top 50 of NBA players so far. So I'm going to the next page to find these guys. Donovan Mitchell comes in here around player 55. And Jamal Murray is still not, he's maybe 60 to 70 in that range. So you're getting 2 guys, 31.2 average points for Murray, 34.6. So that's almost 65 points. If you have the opportunity to have good depth at the small forward position, I think go for it. But for me, I think I'm keeping KD, and I'd rather if you're looking to improve your point guard or shooting guard, I'd rather build that, I think, through some of the free agency options that you can find there. We'll do one more trade question real quick before we get to some later. So Justin's hanging out with us tonight. He's got Trae Young and Josh Richardson, and gave up Terry Rozier and Kyrie Irving. Trae Young and Josh Richardson. I think you own both those guys, right? On Mount Zion?
Yeah. I think we see 2 trades already, Kyle, that involve Nets players one way or another. And so I think this is, a pretty common thought process probably on just about everyone's minds right now. What the hell's going on especially with our big 3 Nets assets, Harden, Durant, and Kyrie. This trade, I haven't been following Rozier as religiously, but this trade I think makes some sense for your side, Justin, receiving Trae Young, and specifically I would look at this as more of just, you gave up Terry and Kyrie and you got Trae Young. Josh Richardson, he has been average at best so far this season. He's not a terrible player, and I believe in him, and I'm still rostering him and expect him to produce, but so far it hasn't been looking so pretty. But Trae Young is awesome. He's probably going to finish the season as a top 10 fantasy asset, and I don't think you could say the same for Rozier or Irving. So I think you got a good deal here, Justin.
Yeah, I think I like getting Trae. He's easily the best player for fantasy between I guess all 4 of these guys. Richardson's just kind of an added bench piece for you guys, your last player on the team. Then let's answer one more question here real quick. I see some trades from Oscar here, but we got a question here from Speed Hydra asking, who should I add for tonight's game? Royce O'Neal, Monte Morris, or J. Michael Green? I have a thought right away. I don't know if any of these players stick out to you. Are you still riding the Royce O'Neal train? I
am number 1 on the Royce O'Neal bandwagon.
And Royce O'Neal, looks like he's owned by, John's got him in this league here. He's averaging 22.2 fantasy points per game in our scoring system here. Under 26% owned here too. The last 2 games, 20.25, 23.5. He's capable of putting up a 48.75, so you love to see that. His scoring is probably the one that you can bank on not being over 10 or anything like that most nights. But if he does, catch fire, there's a good opportunity for him to put up some points. So I do like the Royce O'Neal call here. He's gonna be over 30 minutes in tonight's game. So you're getting a player that's going to play quite a bit. And then the other guy that I was I mean, I used him for a week or so, maybe last week, but I'm keeping my tabs open on J. Michael Green here. He's averaging over 20 fantasy points per game, and he's not even getting a lot of minutes. You see, he's somewhere between the 19 to 28 minute range here, and he's been productive. He's a scoring threat, and he'll get the rebounds here too. Doesn't really like to pass the ball that much, it looks like, but steals and blocks, those come in a little bit. So I think we're going to rank them Royce O'Neal. Let me just take a quick peek at Morris real quick. I mean, I think he's being used enough. He's averaging 21.4. I think I'm still going to go with Royce O'Neal. He's going to be on the field, the floor the most between all these guys. So I think that goes for both of us. We're going with Royce O'Neal in this one. And then we got a few questions here. I'm going to let those brew in the chat room for a little bit. But I wanted to get your thoughts on CJ McCollum, who's going to be out for a week or so with he's got some kind of fracture in his foot. Let me pull this up real quick. Were you aware of this?
That's news to me. Is that news from today, or is it's obviously recent, but
yeah, this happened over the weekend. I know.
Okay. Well, I wonder why I don't remember.
I think it was on Saturday when we were hanging out. I noticed he left the game early. And
Dude.
I'm just looking for my guy, CJ McCollum, here now. So yeah, it was the 16th, which was Saturday. He only played 19 minutes, 20.5 fantasy points. And when I looked at that, I'm like, he doesn't get 20.5. That's a weird one. So I looked into it, and the Trailblazers announced Tuesday that McCollum was diagnosed with a small hairline fracture and a sprain in his left foot. So he's in a walking boot for the next 4 weeks before being reevaluated. So he's out at least a month, which is going to put him, end of February, maybe the first week of March is when we can expect him back. And there also was some other Portland Trailblazer news here too. I'm sure you are aware of the Joseph Nurkic news.
Yeah, heard about that.
And let me just pull up because I saw an update on him this morning too. So successful surgery on his fractured wrist. He's going to be really reevaluated in 6 weeks. So the Portland Trailblazers are down 2 starters. No, I would say 2 really, really good players. So there's going to be some options here. I think I didn't get to talk about Conter last night because he was over 50% owned. But this is a guy, if you need a center and you need help quick, this is the guy to go get. He's 53.2% owned, averaging 26.8 fantasy points. And this dude's got some monster numbers here. You see 45.5, you see a 57.75. I think his numbers are going to start to really, start to peak up here. You see the last 2 games, 27 minutes, 29 minutes. And you get a range of about 25 points upwards to 58 points. So I think that's going to be the range for Conter going forward. But man, should I pull up let me pull up the Portland Trailblazers depth chart, and then we can maybe get your thoughts on, I don't know, let's just look and see who's getting opportunity for these Trailblazers.
Yeah, so Kanter, I mean, obviously Kanter is the replacement. One thing about for Nurkic, if Kanter does miss time, because you got to keep in mind Zach Collins continues to be out. Harry Giles is a guy I've been always very interested in. I like his talent. I like his potential. Obviously, Nurkic got hurt and Giles is still not the starter. So, I mean, he's not like a big part of this Trailblazers rotation, but if something were to happen to Kanter, I mean, he's an old man now. To expect Kanter's just going to be totally healthy would be asinine. So Giles could be kind of a sleepy deeper league guy to keep a lookout for. Or if you notice, what's this guy's name? Kanter, he gets injured or something, or starts getting banged up. But again, I mean, I don't think Giles is a league winner. I think he's, someone who could be a fringe fantasy asset given, minutes and opportunity. The McCollum replacement is complicated. It looks like Rodney Hood has been inserted into the starting lineup. Gary Trent, I think Rodney and Trent get some sort of boost. But if anyone gets a boost from this, it's Dame. I mean, if you're a Dame owner, Dame has been having a solid season, but he hasn't been having like a normal, insanely good season. And I think a big part of that is because CJ has been balling out. And so, if you have a Dame owner that's, in your league and they're looking to sell for some unknown reason, I would definitely start trying to pick pick Dame up, and but if you are the Dame owner, you're going to benefit from this. But yeah, for waiver wire guys, yeah, Rodney Hood. He looks like he's getting the first crack at the starting opportunity given CJ going down. So, that he makes sense to be kind of the first fantasy guy off of the waiver wire as a result.
And we got a 1-game sample here. Puts up 21 points, 2 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal. He did turn the ball over 3 times, but that's 25 fantasy points in 25 minutes. And if he's going to be hitting a consistent 25, 30 minutes going forward, this guy definitely, for at least the next 4 weeks, I think he's going to be able to hold off Gary Trent, I think Trent's still a little inconsistent with his shot. I don't know if he offers that much more, on defensive side. I don't know his game that well. But Gary Trent actually played a lot of minutes even before McCollum went down. So I don't see Gary Trent's value getting any better. I think he's going to remain the backup shooting guard for them and kind of just stay basically what he was, where you see almost every other game here he would trade off for a big game or two. So yeah. I think Rodney Hood is the guy that they prefer to have, playing the hard minutes on defense and playing with the ones at least. They're going to let Gary Trent probably roam the court with the 2. So I think we kind of hit that there. So Rodney Hood, I think he was 4-point-something% owned. He's going to be a guy that I might have to look into after we're done with this because I got McCollum on that team. So it does make sense. I tried to move some people around and pick up some new point guard shooting guards. But guys, the Trailblazers are going to have some opportunity here with Rodney Hood and with Mr. Conter. So definitely like those two for the Trailblazers here. And I don't know, I guess we can kind of move around and start to look at some other things here as far as maybe waiver wire additions. Maybe I'll take a peek here and just wonder what's going on in the chat room here. We got Weston asking, wondering how many games we expect KarlAnthony Towns to miss with COVID. I was bummed to see him with the COVID just because of his family situation and how many people he's lost in his immediate circle with COVID. So I'm hoping it's no more than like the 10 days. And I just want to make sure – I want to see the exact date that he went on the COVID list here. So this was on Friday. So let's see here. That was Friday the 15th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So sometime next week, the 27th, 28th, 29th, Wednesday through Thursday of next week, we can maybe expect him back. I don't know how many games they play in that time, but I guess do we want to talk a little bit about what's maybe some replacements that we should be looking into for KarlAnthony while he's away?
Yeah, I think they had a guy named Naz Reid who was playing minutes. He wasn't doing anything special with those minutes, but he was kind of their main replacement for Cat. And I only know of him because I rostered him for like a week or two.
To say the name Juancho Hernan Gomez. We don't get to talk about him very often, but he's been productive actually in a few spot moments. So I think he's actually a guy that I think he's out as well. So you're looking at, they're starting power forward and they're starting center out, which leaves Jared Vanderbilt and Naz Reid here available. So I'm kind of interested in both guys. Let me pull up Naz Reid's numbers if you want to continue. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good. Well, yeah, it's a disaster right now in Minnesota, as it usually is, just in terms of normal on the court basketball product, and missing their best player because of the virus is not helping with any of that. They're Towns is playing a lot of the games and they're still 3-9. So these guys, they're going to get opportunities. They've been getting, they've had chances where they've gotten minutes. Is this Reid?
Yes, this is Naz Reid.
Yeah, I mean, he's when he's getting starting opportunities, he's usually between, kind of 15 and 25 fantasy points. And you could definitely do worse. So, especially if you're in a little deeper league. So he's definitely a worthy pickup in my opinion. But yeah, he's not moving mountains for you. He's not going to really win you a lot of matchups. He's just going to help you not lose some potentially.
We'd have to maybe look at the Wolves schedule. If they play a couple teams that are weak on center, I might be interested there. And then I did want to pull up Juancho just to see how long.
I didn't even know they had Juancho. I thought they were. Oh, that's crazy. I love this guy.
And he had a game earlier this year, 25 points, 8 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, a 48 point game here. So when when he gets the minutes, man, he's going to be productive. He's going to have a floor of 12 to 15 points, but he can get you 20, he can get you 47. So he's going to be out. He also went on the COVID list on January 14th. So he's going to be back maybe mid next week. So he's in the same boat as Karl-Anthony Towns. And then if we look at what's his name? I keep forgetting now. Mr. Jared
Vanderbilt.
And how is Vanderbilt a second-year player?
He's not a guy I'm super familiar with.
Well, he put up 30.25 fantasy points last night. 8 points, 8 boards, 3 assists, 3 steals, 1 block. I think I'd rather have this guy. He's getting 29 minutes too.
He popped off when Towns went out earlier in the season.
Oh yeah, a couple games.
But yeah, I mean, a couple of those games Towns was also out for, like that 1-1 game, and Reed's a little more steady Eddie. Vanderbilt is a little more boom bust, but even if Vanderbilt pops off, he's not really going to win you anything. So you gotta if you're in a pinch and you need some big guys, I think these are good guys to look at, but definitely manage your expectations.
Let's actually find some appropriate replacements for the center position. I'm just going to filter by a percent rostered. We talked about Kanter already. So if Kanter's available, he would be probably one of the best guys to pick up. We know Nurkic is out for at least, it sounds like 6 weeks. So Kanter is about, where is he? He's down here on the list. He's, maybe the 40th ranked center here. He's 53.2% owned. I really like him. Is there any other guys that we can maybe look at that might be maybe 50% or less? Bobby Portis, does that interest you? And we talked about the Bucks at the top of the show. What have you seen out of Bobby Portis?
Yeah, Portis has been good, but this last game, this Brooklyn game, he did very little. Still, getting you 20 fantasy points, which is great. But he's overall pretty consistent. That Cleveland game was insane to watch him go off. But overall, he's kind of hanging around in those lower mid 20s. He's definitely had some booms, and he's definitely had a couple busts. But Bobby, I mean, kind of like I've been saying ever since we started this podcast a couple, maybe 2 months ago or whatever now, Bobby has all the opportunity in the world because he's getting all the backup big minutes in Milwaukee. So every time they sit Giannis and or Brook, Bobby comes in. And so he's getting lots of good opportunity. And the Bucks are a team where typically you can get fantasy production from a lot of positions. So if he's available, I like him a lot. Another guy I saw on that list was Zubac, who I also like.
Yes. I was going to say one thing on Mr. Bobby Portis here, because I did notice, I mean, it was his fewest minutes last night, basically all season. That was the least minutes, and that was the most competitive game since the Boston game. The very first game that we played this season, that he got 14 minutes last night and then 16 minutes in the very first game. So in more competitive games, we might see him play a little less. In games where we expect Milwaukee to be, 10-point favorites or something, he's going to fill the stats and get a lot more minutes. So we'll see what happens versus Los Angeles on Thursday night here, but against Washington, if that game plays, Atlanta, Toronto, we'll see about the Pelicans. Charlotte, Portland, you could have a nice little run here, opportunity for Portis to kind of get back into those higher 20 minutes. So when you're looking at Portis, I think you got to look at schedule, because if the Bucks are going to have a nice little run for a week, you see 3 or 4 games that you think the Bucks should win easily. That's where I would pivot to there too. But did you say you saw anybody else here on this list real quick? You said Zubac. He's kind of like a roller coaster, but it looks like he's back kind of on the ups here, averaging around 20 fantasy points per game. So 35.2% rostered. I think this could be a really nice replacement if you're missing a guy like Karl-Anthony Towns.
And Zubac just isn't missing games, which especially in this situation, you maybe take a guy who's got a little lower average per game, if you just need a body, but he's going to be there for you every time they have a game. So that's a little bit of a value add. Beyond those kind of the same way. He's been scoring a little more per game than Zubac, but he's also just playing every game. I mean, pretty much every single game. So I like guys, especially when we get to this point where it's like, as long as they're available pretty regularly for you, then relatively worth, the acquisition. So.
And I'll throw, I mean, just because we're going to wide net it here, and I'll go with some guys that are under 60% owned. Like if you can get Brook Lopez, who is roughly 56.8% owned, I would go get Brook Lopez and probably hold on to him while KarlAnthony Towns is out. He's starting to put up the numbers here pretty consistently. So you like what you get out of Brook Lopez for sure. So we like both Bucks, big guys. I'm not sure about Marvin Bagley yet, though, he's actually having some nice games here, too. So I would put Bagley on this list as well, 53.8% owned. And if you need someone that's like going to be a good bet for them to be available, maybe Kelly Olynyk. He's going to get you about 20 points. He'll get a weird game every now and then, but I like his activity in the rebounds, the steals, and the blocks. And then one more here. Interested because it looked like you pumped and dumped with the Bismack Biyombo for a few games. He stole a couple of those good 24, 26.75, and I snagged him right back because I noticed I probably have a easy matchup this week, and I'm thinking more long term. But Bismack Biyombo, Charlotte Hornets starting center, averaging a healthy 23.1 fantasy points per game. Really consistent here too. His floor game's between 13 to 16 points, but he's going to get you 20 points plus more often than not here. And he plays a lot of minutes. I value the minutes quite a bit. He's going to get a block pretty much every game. So you need someone that should be available. Biyombo's the guy to replace KarlAnthony Towns. So I hope that helps you guys if you need some KarlAnthony Towns help. But
and one guy I also saw in there, we don't need to go back into it or anything, but just a quick thought. The Nets traded away in the Harden trade Jared Allen, who was an important piece for them. And I just noticed on that list, under 50% owned was DeAndre Jordan. And while he's old and he's slow, he's also going to have the easiest life ever because gets to play with Harden and Kyrie and Kevin Durant, and no one's going to be defending him ever. So, these first two games look pretty good. But hopefully, I think he could easily, consistently maintain over 25 fantasy points a game going forward.
Yeah, that's a good one. Only 42.7% owned. So I think we were able to throw out a bunch of good names there if you're missing KarlAnthony Towns. But while we're here, let's knock out some of these questions in the chat room. So I'm going back to Oscar's trade here. So he was asking, and I kind of commented back in the chat room, but he was asking, should I trade Christian Wood and Jeremy Grant for Kyrie? I kind of said no. I'd rather have Wood and Jeremy Grant. You agree with that?
100%. Even just looking at it straight up, Wood for Kyrie, I think Wood is better this year. And that's pre-Harden trade. Post-Harden trade, Wood, in theory, his fantasy production should increase because they just removed a guy who dominates the ball from his team. And Kyrie's fantasy production should decrease because they just added that exact same guy to Kyrie's team, and it will take the ball out of Kyrie's hands. So the Wood side of that trade wins in my mind.
And I'm thinking Oscar's thinking is that he's trying to sell high on both Grant and Wood, but I don't think I'm selling either of these two guys. They both play extremely well. They're on teams that basically the offense is built around them at this point. You see Jeremy Grant here. He's the third ranked shooting small forward here, 41.5 points. I don't think this is a sell high window opportunity. I think he's going to do this probably the rest of the season. So this is definitely a guy that I'm trying to hold on to. He's a stud. You got rewarded for taking him in probably the 7th or 8th round of drafts. So I don't know if I would move either of these guys. And then I did see Oscar had another question here. Is who do you think he could get to package Wood and Jeremy Grant for? Can you think of anyone that you would send those two guys to get? You're probably talking a top 5, top 10 talent.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Wood is, I think, already – I think they're both probably top 20 fantasy pieces right now. So if you're trading two of them away, I would only accept top 10 or top 5 guy.
Yeah.
So, guys that are available, let's look at them. I mean, we could look at the top options. So maybe a guy like Beal, maybe a guy like Harden, maybe a guy like Drummond, kind of in that middle. Maybe KarlAnthony Towns, he's out right now. Maybe, his owner would be like, I need production now. I can't wait for Towns to come back.
Here's why I don't think I can entertain sending those two guys in a 2-for-1. You're not getting that many more points back. You're sending two guys that are averaging over 40 points to get maybe a guy that averages 50. I think that hurts my team more, and it really hurts my depth. So I think you got to hold on to both Wood and Jeremy Grant. You see Christian Wood here. He's probably maybe the 15th, 16th best player on this list. Jeremy Grant is not that much farther behind him here. He's probably 25th on the list. So for me, I noticed too, he had a really stacked team earlier in a comment. He's already got Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Trae Young, Jeremy Grant, Luka Doncic, Vucevic, and Wood. So I think I'm gonna stick with this team because that team's freaking stacked.
I'd ride them. I'd ride those boys, Oscar, all the way to your championship because I think that's exactly where you're headed with a team like that.
Yeah, that's got to be an 8-man league, huh? That's nuts. So we got Speed Hydra asking, should I add Hood and drop DeLon Wright? I'm wondering if that's long term here.
That's a good question. DeLon Wright, if we could pull him up, that would help because we looked at Hood a little bit. I think Wright's been doing okay. Yeah, so I would probably take Hood. But this is not a situation where either one is, this is like one of your last starters, right, Mr. Hydra? So, I'm not in love with either one of these guys. I'd probably take Hood, but Wright has been a lot of stinkers in there, but he's been semi-steady.
I have a little bit of a background with this because I was into Josh Jackson at the beginning of the season. He was getting more playing time, and he was playing better than DeLon Wright. And then he gets an ankle injury, misses about a week. That puts DeLon Wright back into the starting lineup, and he goes off for almost 4 straight games of 30 fantasy points. So now that Jackson's a little bit healthier, we saw his minutes dip last night a little bit, almost no solid.
Sure.
He hit 4 categories, but nothing really substantial. So I think we're taking Rodney Hood because we know for sure he's starting. Like that's there. Gary Trent's minutes are going to probably stay what they've been, and getting McCollum minutes for essentially the next 4 weeks. So I think I like the Hood there. We got Michael Carew asking, should we keep Kemba? Did you know Kemba Walker's coming back shortly?
Yeah. I've definitely heard the rumblings on Kemba.
He played on Sunday.
I think. Wait, has he played this season?
Yeah, he played on Sunday for the first time. 9 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. He did have 5 turnovers, but he just 20 minutes, 20 fantasy points. We're keeping Kemba. Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's playing. Yes, please keep Kemba. I mean, you held him this long. He's only got 20 minutes game 1. They're gonna, they'll be the training wheels will be on him for the next, maybe even the next month. But I mean, you drafted him. You're probably not going to get a good value in a trade. There's definitely no one you can pick up that's got the upside that Kemba has, especially maybe not this next month, but after that, he should be, based on our league, scoring 30 fantasy points plus a game kind of guy.
Right. He'll be a top 50 player at least. So I'm holding on to Kemba. And then he's also asking, drop Cantor when Jaren Jackson Jr. comes back, would you drop Enes Kanter for? I don't know if that's a free agency pickup, but it's going to probably take at least a week or 2 for Jaren Jackson to get back into the flow of things. You can't expect him to be right back where he was last year before he got injured. So as long as Nurkic is out for the 6 weeks, I'm going to hold on to Kanter, and we'll see what happens when Jaren Jackson comes back. And just because we're talking about it real quick, let me just pull up and see what the reports are on Jaren Jackson. Definitely, if you can snag him and you have an IR spot, go get Jaren Jackson here and hold on to him because he's going to be a good player. I guess the spin here is they said his return's not that far away, but he won't return on Monday. His next chance will be tomorrow night, so we'll see if he can get in. But definitely interested in Jaren Jackson if you can get him.
I have a slightly different perspective. So Nurkic will be back, and in theory, should be back in time for the fantasy playoffs. So Michael, if you think that you have a really good team and you're going to make the playoffs, no matter what, your fantasy playoffs, and you like Jaren Jackson, you have confidence that he's a good player and he's got some upside for the end of the season, because it's gonna take a little bit of time. Even if he comes back this week, it's still going to take a lot of time for him to get his himself right and everything. I think I could easily see the argument if you have a good team, you're 4-0, 3-1 already, and you feel like you're probably going to the playoffs, and you like Jaren Jackson, I'm totally comfortable snagging Jaren Jackson as like a stash for your playoff run. But if you need to win games right now, I Kanter. It's not even a debate. And Jackson does have a lot of risk, even if he comes back healthy and fine. There's Brandon Clark has made a splash on that offense, or on that rotation. Jonas Valanciunas gets a lot of minutes for them. So I think Jaren Jackson is going to be an important piece for them, but it's not an absolute guarantee. So
yeah, and I kind of didn't get to that point, but Brandon Clark is kind of in his starting position right now, and he's been playing great. You see, just the last week and a half or two, you're seeing 32, 35, 44, about 22, 46, 28. So he's gonna, and Jaren Clark's getting over 30 minutes per game. He's averaging 33 minutes the last 7 days per game here. So I think it might be a little bit of a slow roll for Jackson to get back in, but you mentioned Jonas is also in the way. So the rotation get a little bit of a weird to work out. So again, if you need to win now, it's Kanter. If you can afford to wait for Jaren Jackson, I think it's fine to hold on to him and see what happens. But I think that paints the perspective of outcomes. So if you need to win now, it's Kanter. But there's also, Nurkic also, he's been injury prone for his career.
Yeah, so he has been.
Kanter could be a potential guy that could be a league winner if anything happens. So,
the only downside of that is Kanter has also been semi-injury proof. Not as bad as Nurkic. Nurkic has been I hate to say a little made of glass, but he's kind of sort of made of glass. But those big guys, I mean, their bodies are not built the same as ours, and it's. I'm surprised as many of them do hold up as long as they do. So,
so we got Lucius hanging out with us tonight. Thanks for hanging out. He's asking, would you prefer for the rest of the season Eric Bledsoe or Al Horford? Anything off the top of your head, or should we dig into some of these stats?
As I think it's probably Horford, but this is very much a positional question again. Like, if you're a categories league, obviously, what categories are you trying to stack? If you're just a straight up points league, I would expect Horford is doing a little better, but he also might be playing, he might be averaging more fantasy points per game, but maybe Bledsoe is playing more of the basketball games just because he's a little younger, a little healthier, whatever. So this could be, I'd say this is a little more positional dependent than maybe it appears, but Horford is the better player and a better basketball producer at this point in their careers.
It says he's out with a personal matter. I don't know what that is about. It doesn't say COVID or anything. It just says he's out with a personal matter. But when he plays, he's averaging almost 26 fantasy points per game, about 27 minutes on the season so far. And he's a starter. I mean, he's a starter for a young, inexperienced Oklahoma City Thunder. Now with Bledsoe, I don't know when Lonzo Ball comes back. Or not, I'm not sure exactly on that, but Bledsoe's going to play more minutes than Horford, almost 29 minutes per game, and he's averaging about 23 fantasy points per game. So he's only missed a handful of games so far, but I think I'm going to go with Horford's side on this one. Even just ignore the positions, I think I'm going to go with Horford. He's more of a focal point for that team, so I think I'm going to go with that one. And then Lucian, so you want to finish anything on that one?
Oh no, I was just another weird thing about both those players is they're older guys, established vets on young teams who, for the Thunder, probably won't make the playoffs. For the Pelicans, honestly, probably won't make the playoffs either. So it's like these guys they're trade chips for potential contenders and all sorts of stuff. So it's a tough question just where they are now, and there's a high likelihood. Maybe not a high likelihood, but there is a likelihood that both of them end the season on totally different teams. So whichever one you decide to commit to, don't be afraid to pivot back if the other guy's still there.
Sure. And then we got another question quick from Lucius here. He's saying he's also seeing Derrick Rose was dropped in his league. It's a head-to-head points league. So would you take Derrick Rose over Horford or Bledsoe? Just looking at the numbers real quick here, he missed a couple in almost a week here of games, but and also Killian Hayes is out. I don't know how long Hayes is out for, but you're going to see Rose get a lot of opportunity, and he sees 32 points last night, 40.75 the night before, so he's filling out the box score here. He's a scoring threat for them. Does this fact again? Looking at 3 veteran players, who do you trust the most?
Yeah, no, Rose is notably ahead of both of them in
Yeah.
terms of fantasy points per game, and I think he's also probably the most established, within these teams' systems because the Pistons have no guards, and I think they're trying to be a good team this year, though they're failing they're missing by a lot, but yeah, just in terms of if everyone's healthy on all of these teams, who's getting the most minutes? I'd probably say it's Derrick Rose, followed by Al Horford, followed by Eric Bledsoe. So, and that's kind of my order. That's the same order of how they're producing as well. So I definitely take Rose over the other two.
Okay, so Rose is averaging the least amount of minutes compared to all these guys. So just under 24 minutes per game. I think the other guys were, 25 and something like 27 minutes or 28 minutes per game. But earlier in the season when Rose was healthier, you see 27 minutes, 33, 26, 24. You see some really nice fantasy numbers. So I think the guy with the highest ceiling is probably Derrick Rose. Again, young, inexperienced team. I think I'm going to go Rose, Horford, Bledsoe for my
Mm-hmm. Yep, same.
Let's see here. Justin's asking another question here. Any update on Miles Turner? Apparently can possibly play. So I noticed, I think it was a fracture. Did you hear about Miles Turner's hand issue?
I've heard like 4 different things about it. Because like I thought he was going to be out a couple weeks, and and like you just said, he's possibly going to play tomorrow.
So I don't know what the avulsion. What's the proper term? Avulsion? Do you know what that is? Is a fracture in his right hand?
It's an avulsion, and it sounds not bad. Serious enough to keep you out for more than a couple of days. So.
Okay, so there's potential for him to play. I think we're going to assume that he's going to play, if not Wednesday, probably the next game. So it looks like he should be back by the end of the week. So I think you feel good about that. And dude, because I was looking at Turner's stats. Someone asked me a trade question. The blocks on this guy: 4, 6, 3, 4, 8, 3, a couple ones, but 3, 5, 4, 8. This is your NBA leader in blocks for 2021. Fantastic. And then look at the steals too, man. 1, 2, 2, 0, 2, 1, 0, 4, 2. Like just getting 3-pointers with the blocks and the steals. I love it. And he's gonna flirt with the double points and rebounds. This might be one of the most undervalued players right now. If you can, okay, I'm not a big trade guy, but if you can trade for Miles Turner right now, I'd do it. He's got the hand injury. People might be a little shy. I like everything that I'm seeing, though, with his box scores.
And he's doing this while playing with another traditional big in Sabonis. I mean, they've talked about splitting those two up many, many times, trading Turner away, because I don't think at this point Sabonis is just the obvious, guy you keep. But if Turner does go, like, for example, I don't know how the hell this could happen because the Nets don't have a lot of assets left to trade. But if the Nets could somehow acquire a guy like Miles Turner and he becomes, their only useful center, you move DeAndre Jordan down a peg, that's that's obviously the maximally perfect scenario for him. But there's probably a lot of different scenarios where he could go to a team that are missing big guys and be really special. So I tend to agree with you there, Kyle. He's kind of an interesting guy who, no matter the scenario, he could be very useful. And he's, talk about stock market. He's leading the market right now. So he's
4.2 blocks per game.
Yeah,
that's insane. And a steal and a half too. This is really impressive when I looked at it. So I love Miles Turner. I think the Pacers got themselves a pretty good player there. And then Justin's asking, will Clint Capella continue his hot streak? I haven't looked at Capella lately. Let's take a gander here at the center. Wow, 54.75 points and 56.75 the last 2 nights. Back-to-back 15 rebounds, 11 the games before that. Just stuffing the rebounds. Look at these numbers here. Wow. I don't see why this wouldn't continue.
So look at especially for the last 2 games, look at the teams that they're playing and who did we just talk about? We talked about Cat missing time and we talked about Nurkic missing time. So what this means to me is maybe he's beating up on some injured teams and some injured front lines and big guys, but I mean, if you look at what he was doing prior to this, it's a pretty good streak. Capella is having a good season. He's doing kind of what you expected to him. I wouldn't say this hot streak will continue, but I will say his good season will continue.
Right. I mean, we can't expect him to get 55 points per game going forward, but I definitely it looks like he's nestling in a floor of around 30 fantasy points here, and he's averaging 36. That's probably because of the spike here. If you can get him to average 36 to 40 the rest of the way, I think that can continue. I think that's pretty reasonable. So really good stuff from Capella there.
Well, you like to know that he will take advantage of situations that are fortunate for him. If he is going against a team that's got a banged up center, he's going to go off. So, it's obviously like he's a big part of this Atlanta offense and probably a major beneficiary of playing with Trae Young. So
the other thing to note here too is, again, it was Minnesota, Portland, both struggling with their centers right now, and he had 39 minutes and 37 minutes in those 2 games. So his season average is 28.5. So we should expect a little regression, but I think if you have Capella, you got a pretty good player. Is this a trade high? Because the chat room loves the trade. So is this a trade high moment for Capella? Like, who could you potentially get for Capella?
Yeah. So after 250 burgers in a row, it could be an interesting moment to try to trade Clint. And who would you? That's a good question. So we've got a lot of people talking about, should we trade Kyrie? Should we trade for Kyrie? Should we trade away Kyrie? I wonder, maybe I'm not the biggest fan of Kyrie, but if you're in a little bit of a point guard bind, Kyrie could be kind of an interesting target. If there is someone in one of your leagues out there who's like, oh gosh, Harden is going to steal everything from Kyrie. Obviously, that's not true. He's going to steal a lot, but that could be an interesting option. I don't know. Scroll down a little bit. Oh, we're looking at center, big guys only right here.
Would you take Chris Boucher, Steven Adams? I'd go try to get Turner if I can, like swap Capella for Turner.
I'd be open to that. Maybe a Christian Wood owner who doesn't realize that Christian Wood's good yet, but at this point, that number of those people are few and far between.
And I think the people that took Christian Wood knew what they were getting when they took him. So I think he's probably one of the hardest people to acquire, and I wouldn't want to trade him. But
absolutely,
maybe Bam Adebayo, who missed some games here, so the owner might be a little bit less excited about his injury history and things like that. And I don't know. So you're probably looking somewhere in that range. I think that could be reasonable. But Chris Boucher and the Raptors, I watched this Raptor game the other night too, while the Bucks were playing. Chris Boucher is a phenomenal player. We were just talking about blocks with Miles. Just let me read off the blocks here for Boucher. So 3, 2, 2, 3, 6, 3, 1, 2. He had a little bit of a cold streak here, but he ended up having 7 blocks in one game after the day after Christmas here. So this guy, he gets the blocks, averaging 2.5 blocks per game. He's chipping in 16.7 boards, a little over an assist, and he gets half a steal per game here. So I really like Boucher, really active player. And what's crazy is the man's only averaging about 24 minutes per game this year, and he's averaging about 35 fantasy points. Talk about, minutes to fantasy points. This guy he deserves more minutes, if we're being honest.
Well, yeah, in his recent hot streak, it looks like he has been given slightly more minutes, at least than like his normal average.
The last 7 days here, he's averaging almost 30 compared to about
20. Exactly. So I think this guy, this could be an interesting come up, if you're able to move Capella for this guy. You might even be able to go Capella and another piece, or Capella for Boucher and another piece if you're finding an owner who's just trading based on name value.
Yeah. So we're going on about 48 minutes here. I guess we still got some questions and stuff we can get through, so let me just fire John. Emmanuel Quickley, New York Knicks. Have you been intrigued with him, or what do you know anything on Mr. Quickley for us?
I am not. What position is he playing? He's playing guard. Interesting. Let's look at the game logs quick. I'm not following him too well.
So just looking at days. Me and Dalton were talking about him because as soon as he noticed this 29 minutes per, Dalton looks at minutes and then he'll track it that way. But there's an uptick of minutes here. Really good scoring point guard as well. The assists kind of come and go. He's going to chip in a little bit on the rebounding category, but I like his defense awareness here, steals and blocks.
Yeah.
His minutes decreased against Orlando. This was a game That was the 11 a.m. game yesterday, so I was box score watching that one as it came through. And Orlando, like that game was really tough, so he didn't get to play a lot. So I'm kind of nervous about this maybe just being a 1 week fad. So the question here is he worth keeping around in a 12-team league? He's about 16% rostered. Does this look like a player that you're going to want to leave in there for at least the next week or so?
I mean, he's easily worth consideration. Is he worth keeping?
Would you rather have Rodney Hood?
I'd probably rather have Rodney Hood. But, I mean, I don't know. This guy's young. He's new. He maybe isn't young, but he's definitely new. Rodney Hood has been there, done that. You know what you're getting out of Rodney Hood. This guy is new, exciting. I'd be interested to see his next week. But if you don't have Rodney Hood available on the waiver wire because you're in a deeper 12-team league and you don't have some of these other guys on the waiver wire we've been talking about, yeah, I'd hold on to him. I mean, he's especially because he's had a pretty solid 10-day stretch, and it'd be nice to see maybe what he does over the next 10 days.
So I have a question of my own for you because
okay.
I took Tyus Jones when John Morant went down. And I let Tyus Jones go as soon as I saw Ja was back. But it looks like Tyus Jones actually is going to maintain some fantasy value. I know the minutes for Ja are slowly going to go back up. But in 2-game sample here, Tyus Jones is averaging 19. He's got 19.5 fantasy points and 25 and a quarter. 17 to 22 minutes. I think that's what I would expect, for a range for minutes for him now that he's the backup again. But this is the guy here. A lot of people, dropped him like I did. He's about 20% owned. Would you rather have Tyus Jones over quickly or something like that? I think he's a better backup option for me.
I'd probably take Tyus Jones, but again, I mean, if you, these are close calls, between Hood, Jones, and Quickly. We're definitely splitting hairs. I would probably go, with the other two options over Quickly, but if you like what you're seeing with this kid, he's like I said, he's not a name I'm as familiar with, so he's obviously a little newer to the scene. If he's your guy, I wouldn't be afraid to ride him for the end of this month.
Right, and then we discussed Rodney Hood at the top of the show. If you want to replay that back, we were both into him. He's probably going to be a pretty nice player for at least the next month while McCollum is out. And I'm just keeping my eye on Tyus Jones, man, because if he's going to get about 20 minutes per game, he was a very effective player when John Morant was out. You see 25, 36, 41, 20, 27. Just a really good run here while Ja was out.
Yeah.
This could be a nice – if you're looking at the New York Knicks backup, I think he's a rookie in Quickly. Like, give me the Tyus Jones, who I know the numbers have been pretty good when he got the starter minutes, so I feel a little bit more comfortable there. So I'd probably rank them, Jones and Hood above Quickly. But we got another question here from our guy Justin, real quick. I clicked on the wrong one. Will Blake Griffin and I think that's Boogie DeMarcus Cousins turn up after bad games? I'm not sure what the question is there, but DeMarcus Cousins has been frustrating to own. I don't know if you want me to pull up this ridiculous search.
Sure. Let's do it.
I will say I lead the league in technical fouls and ejections because of
Boogie.
Cousins. So it's an honor to lead the league in some kind of category here. But man's been he's borderline droppable for me. I've only gotten 2 games where I've been impressed with him. And at this point, I'd rather let him be someone else's headache. The minutes are ass. What do you do with DeMarcus Cousins here? 42% owned. I want to hold on. I want to believe. James Harden's out of the picture, but this basically Christian Wood just dominates all of his potential opportunity there. So I'm very frustrated with Cousins.
Yeah, if someone would have told you 3 years ago that Boogie Cousins couldn't get on the court much because Christian Wood was taking all his minutes and taking all the starter touches, you would just laugh at them, and that is what's happening.
It's he's a backup.
Yeah.
And the minutes are going to be inconsistent. The dude's going to get technical fouls and potentially get ejected a handful more times.
Yeah.
He's a very emotional player. He plays with a lot of passion and he gets fouls and kind of does some dumb things. But the talent's still there. That's what bothers me. You see some of these, nice double-double here, 14 rebound game here. He was getting blocks earlier. It's been a while here. So I'm holding on to Cousins. I'm probably going to give him till the end of the month to make a decision. But we'll see what happens there. And then just with Blake Griffin, let's just check in. Do you still own Blake Griffin?
Blake, yeah, I own Blake. So, a tale of two cities here a little bit. We've got each of our probably most frustrating players are problem children, if you will. Blake doesn't reward me with the technical fouls like Boogie does for you, but he actually does have some good games. Blake also has this fun ability to miss every back-to-back and also just not have good health in general. But I didn't totally understand your question, but to put Blake and Boogie in the same sentence, even if it was a less than clear sentence, I think is inappropriate. I think Blake is pretty good. And I think he's almost regardless of your league size and scoring settings, I think Blake deserves a roster spot. Boogie, we're in a deeper 12-team league, and Kyle is considering holding him. He's on the fence a little bit more. So Blake is a must hold, and if you drafted him, it's going to be hard to trade him. So you're just going to have to hold out and do the little injury song and dance with him. But so far he's been relatively consistent. He's played in most of the games. And so if you can keep that up, I think Blake is going to have a solid season. I'll put it like that.
Right. Definitely hold on to Blake Griffin. We got maybe 4 or 5 minutes left in the show. I think we're just going to rifle through some of these questions real quick. I'm going to be going live Thursday. It sounds like Drake's going to be hanging out with me on Thursday. John, you're welcome to hang out if you're available or you would like to, 50-50. But we're hanging out with Drake on Thursday night. We'll go live for the hour and answer all your questions as well. But let's just kind of rapid fire here. Oscar with these trades, man. He's trying to move some of those pieces here. Thoughts on Bradley Beal and Gordon Hayward for James Harden? Yes or no? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
I'd stay where you're at, Oscar. I like Beal and Harden, even though I love Harden and I think he's amazing. I just think he's gonna, being on the court with KD, Kyrie, it's going to kind of mute his fantasy performance a little bit. So I actually like the Beal side.
Yeah, and it was Beal and Hayward. He's given up 2 really good pieces there just to get Harden. So I think that's a down. Give me Beal over Harden straight up. That sounds like a bad one.
Same.
So Michael Carew, keep DeAndre Hunter and Mikal Bridges. I think I'm keeping Hunter. Mikal Bridges is probably on the fence. It depends on if you're in a 10 or 12 team league. But those are both guys that I like quite a bit. I don't know if you have any thoughts on those guys real quick.
I like Bridges a lot more than Hunter, and I like them both.
Right, so we're keeping both guys there. And yes, sir, keep Bobby Boucher on your team. What's going on, man? Thank you for hanging out tonight, dude. He says he's made some moves here. So we got to check out – we're going to finish with Aiden's 20-man league here in a little bit. Hey, thank you, Calvin. That's a lovely comment. He appreciates us, and we appreciate you just as much, man. Thank you so much for hanging out in the chat room. If you guys are still listening, don't forget to like the video. That helps YouTube let them know that, hey, this is a video worth watching, and it kind of sends it out in their algorithms. So don't forget to like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we're going to finish here with Aiden's Insano 20-man league. We got to get some advice for Aiden. So in the 20-person league with the broken 3, he gets 5 points for 3-pointers. He sent out Drummond, Vucevic, Matisse Thybulle, I don't know Chiza's first name, for Irving, Stewart, Jamal, Gafford, and Nwaba. I'm assuming that's Jamal Murray. And then we did another move here with Irving, Stewart, Toppin, Caruso for Cousins, and Redick, and CJ McCollum. This is a lot to take in here. So we sent out Drummond, Vucevic, Thybulle, and Chiza for Kyrie. Who's Stewart?
I don't know.
Is it
Isaiah Stewart?
Isaiah Stewart. I think this is what it is.
Yeah, he's a rookie this year.
Okay, so again, he's very productive with his minutes. So this looks really nice here. And in the 20-man league, again, he's 0.8% rostered. So he's going to help. He's going to definitely help there. Does he hit threes, though? I don't know.
I don't think so.
No, this doesn't look like a 3-point man.
No, but he's a big boy.
Getting Kyrie, Mr. Isaiah Stewart. I'm assuming that's Jamal Murray. Let's check out Daniel Gafford's numbers real quick. I don't know if he shoots threes either, but it looks like he's starting to play a little bit better here too. Not too bad of a floor. So this looks like a three-point shooter.
I don't think so. He's another center. A lot of centers are the ones we don't know beyond. I think it's Choza, not Chiza, but beyond, with an O.
Choza, yes.
Oh, but there's an I and an O. Okay, well, there you go.
Choza. I don't know whether you comfortably start him if there's an injury or something like that. He looks like a guy that can put up, a good amount of fantasy points here. Really solid numbers there.
So just eyeballing this trade, and it's only 10 players total. It's pretty easy. Just eyeballing this trade, Aiden. I would say that I don't like your side. Losing Drummond, losing Vucevic, that's tough. However, you factor in this 3-point setting you have. I think you're definitely coming closer to a good value. I will say Drummond and Vucevic put up so many damn fantasy points, and I don't know your other settings. I don't know if there's anything else weird like the 5 points for a three, but Vucevic especially makes threes himself, and Drummond is just uber valuable across all fantasy formats. So, what's that?
Drummond can hit some threes, and then Aiden did have another comment below that, which he sent away Irving, Isaiah Stewart, Obi Toppin, and Alex Caruso to get DeMarcus Cousins, JJ Redick, and CJ McCollum. So this isn't looking the greatest now that McCollum's out for a month. So this might have backfired, Aiden. But in hindsight, like McCollum and Redick, like those guys are almost hitting 7 to 10 threes combined per night. So I get the logic there. But man, I think we should have kept Drummond and Vucevic, man. This one's kind of tough.
But we'll see. I mean, if you can stomach the loss of CJ McCollum for a couple weeks and he comes back right on time and just starts peppering the threes, Redick always is making lots and lots of threes. So, and Boogie can shoot threes. So if he can kind of get his head out of his where. But
essentially, he ended up. He ended up with Jamal Murray, DeMarcus Cousins, JJ Redick, CJ McCollum, Gafford, and Nwaba. So, again, in hindsight, it looks like he did a pretty good job of, trading before the CJ McCollum injury. I think he did a good job finding what he's looking for with the 5-point threes. And assuming he's got some other centers that's usable. Drummond and Vucevic are, two of the best centers. I'm hoping he had at least another guy there too. And he says it happened the night the injury happened. So that was Saturday. And he says he's a diehard Blazers fan. So if you wanted to get McCollum, then you got McCollum. So maybe we just add some of the guys that we talked about at the beginning of the show. We talked about Portland a little bit more in detail there. So for now, I hope you can kind of just hold on to things and maybe go 2-2 the next couple of weeks while McCollum's out, just kind of tread water. But man, JJ Redick and McCollum and Jamal Murray. So the long end process of you doing the initial deal and then you get that extra deal, I think in the long term, this might be looking really, really good for you. So we'll see what happens there. And there's always the case that Drummond could get traded. They're a little unhappy with his contract, it seems like.
I think you maybe lost the first trade and you definitely won the second trade. And it's hard for me to, in my mind, understand how those 5-pointers, factor in. But you just acquired a bunch of dudes who get 5-point plays, Aiden. So I think you're going to be happy when CJ comes back.
And then Speed Hydra, just thank you for liking the stream. So for my schedule at the moment, Tuesdays and Thursday nights are going to be my 1-hour streams, usually at 6 o'clock Central Time. I'll go live for an hour. It's usually with John and Drake on Tuesday night, but we moved Drake to Thursday. So we have 2 live streams every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll have one. And then I think I'm going to kind of upload Monday, Wednesday, and Friday videos. So just 2 live videos per week, and then we'll kind of go from there. But yeah, man, we definitely noticed the basketball content is it's not very popular. So there's not a lot of people doing it. And we're just 2 friends hanging out. And we got Justin, we got Calvin, we got Oscar, Michael Carew, Aiden, we got a lot of cool people hanging out in the chat room asking questions. So we appreciate all of you guys here. And then we're going to end with the last question of the night from Justin. he can get DeMar DeRozan, DeAndre Ayton, and he can give up Zion and Capella. I already kind of know where you're going with this, but what are you doing, John?
Whew.
This is tough.
That's a really tough one. I'd probably go with the Zion and Capella side, but I mean, it's pretty even. It's pretty darn even.
If you're partial, I mean, at that point, those are all really good players. Justin, I think if you have a preference, if you're a Spurs fan, keep DeMar. I mean, it's really, at this point, I have all 4 players here. You got to go with your heart. If you really want Zion on your team, that's appropriate, I think, to acquire your guy there. So I do think that's kind of 50-50. I think I'm going to lean with DeMar and Ayton, though. DeMar's going to get a little bit more points, I think, than Zion. And then I believe Ayton's probably almost equal to Capella at the moment. So it really comes down to Zion versus DeMar. So I think that's basically it's a personal decision. Do you want Zion and go get him? I think that's an appropriate price, right? And then I don't know, man. I do have one thing for you too, John. Before we end the night show.
Yeah.
I haven't been posting it, but I've been logging my NBA player props.
Love it.
On the season, 12 of 18. Tonight's props, SGA over 31.5 total points, boards, and assists against Denver. And then on the other side, I took Jokic. This is a high over, but it's over 45.5 total points, boards, and assists. The reason thinking is, who's going to guard Jokic for OKC? Who?
I have no idea.
I don't know. And then I just think SGA 31.5. I've hit that a couple times this year. So on the season again, 12 of 18. I've been on a hot streak, six bets in a row. We have hit DiVincenzo a couple nights ago. Missed on DiVincenzo the game before that. I'm trying to log my picks here and not really get too much attention to it. I kind of want to get a good list before I start pumping it. But so far, 12 of 18. I feel really good about these SGA and Jokic tonight over those. I really like the points, rebounds, and assists. I feel like that's a really easy number for me to calculate, and it gives you some leeway if it's a small points game. Sometimes, especially these studs, like they're going to get their points. Especially a guy like Jokic, he's going to flirt with a triple double tonight probably. So
Jokic's floor is 40 points because he always flirts with a triple double. Right. Yeah, SGA, anytime he's hovering around 30 in a category of these 3 categories, it feels like you want to slap that over. Right.
So I'm just thinking 20 SGA points and 6 assists and 6 rebounds will do it right there. That's 32 total. So that's a floor for him at this point. So just wanted to get some thoughts on that.
I love those. I think those are 2 really good ones.
Yeah. And my thought process on the props has gotten a lot better the last week or so, because I had to run a 4 losses, and I had to rethink my strategy. So we've been on a good little
back to the drawing board.
But I don't know, man. Any final thoughts? Or we're out of here for the evening.
I got nothing else for you. This was fun. I'm going to try to hop on the Thursday show. No promises, but I will try to do so. I love talking with both of you guys, so that'll be fun.
Okay, and then it doesn't have to be for the full hour. If you just want to hang out for the back half hour, or 2, I'm sure we're probably going to go live around 6. So if you want to shoot, for the back half an hour, we could do that too. But I don't know. I just want to say thank you to everybody in the chat room for hanging out with all the questions. We'll see you guys in another video. Tomorrow night I'm recording my NFL conference championship previews. I'll open that back up on Friday too. So it'll be a quick video tomorrow night. But again, thank you, John, for your time. I got the link in the description below to follow him on Twitter. Thank you again so much. Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you in another video. Peace.
Take it easy.